Greetings, podsters and podlars, and welcome to Cazza and Tracy Talk Gavin and Stacey. I'm Tracy.
And I'm Caroline, aka Cazza.
And we're friends who, like Gavin and Stacey, met online in the noughties. We connected over small humour, over how life is funny in the minutiae of things, and we also found that we like to read and watch many of the same things. And one of those things was Gavin and Stacey, which is also a show that celebrates small humour, as well as kindness and bluster and people being magnificently themselves in all their flawed glory. And now that the show is having its one last hurrah with a final Christmas special, we thought we'd rewatch it all, remind ourselves why we loved it and find out whether we still do. We're up to Season 2, Episode 4, and while Nessa's pregnancy is well established, Stacey is growing more and more unhappy living away from her hometown Barry and her family, and the tension between Stacey and Gavin is starting to set in. So let's begin with Tracy's Tracy. As with the last episode, there's a lot of scenes that don't move the plot along too much, but do show us everyone being themselves as the news spreads that Mick is going to be on the Tele that night after finding a dead body and being interviewed by the news crew. There are a lot of little conversations with and about Stacey, highlighting her growing unhappiness with no job and living in someone else's home. All of these tensions escalate the next day when Gavin and Stacey start looking at flats and they're shown a predictably awful dive shown by a predictably awful agent. Nessa travels over to Essex to see Stacey. She meets Gavin, Stacey and Smithy at the bowling alley. Nessa, unsurprisingly, proves herself to be a bowling champion, while the tensions between Gavin and Stacey really surface. After the game, they all go back to the Shipmans where Nessa is planning to stay the night. Gavin and Stacey are in their bedroom having an argument. Meanwhile, Smithy and Nessa are downstairs bonding over their buckets of KFC and in particular a buttered corn on the cob. So, Caroline, what was this episode about for you?
So I think there's a couple of things going on, and the big theme obviously is the tension about living with your in-laws, and I think they handle it really nicely because no one's awful, but it's hard. There's, I think, a scene where Pam just comes into the bathroom while Stacey's showering because she needs to get in there and Stacey's been in there a long time. But on the other hand, that's Stacey's private time. So nobody was really that out of line, but it flares up into a thing. And I guess the other thing I'm feeling with this is that they're really starting to flex their muscles with having stupid conversations that they want you at home to go, oh, yes, that's so annoying, or, oh, yes, yeah, oven gloves, whatever. Yeah. But I think that them really coming into their powers. What about you?
I mean, the subplot about Mick being on the Tele and all that build-up and that anticipation that shows between Essex and Wales and the jumping back and forth that was a lot of fun. But yeah, like you say, really it's just a vehicle to show the increasing tension between Gavin and Stacey Stacey's real struggle to make peace with living away from home and, like you say, which I hadn't properly clocked, but living with your in-laws, which is kind of fine. Nobody's wrong about anything, but just living with people
from a different culture.
Yeah. So rewatching this one, how do you think it's holding up? Anything too cringy or problematic, any dated or?
This is intensely personal to me in that, I have been renting and a renter for a long time. So I find it very hard to laugh at real estate jokes. And anytime there's a terrible flat being presented for a lot of money and an awful real estate agent, I get that they're having a dig, but I just sit there going, this is bullshit, this is real. So it's for me, it's triggering, and I know I should have a better sense of humour about it. But so that's mine, and I realise that them writing about it is not problematic and them showing it is not, but it does have this response in me, and that's, just a personal thing. What about you?
I'm just rewriting my question for the end of the show.
Rude.
Just quickly thinking as it was based on that. So I have to quickly think of a different question that I ask you at the end of the show. No, actually, that is a very good perspective. Like, it's too easy to write because it's too true, isn't it? Like you never see
It's really true. I get triggered and I get tense and I go, this isn't even parody. This is real. And it's not funny.
So I thought it was beautifully nostalgic to see everyone gathering around the telly for the news. And I mean, in terms of the times changing and everything, that kind of collective momentum towards a common goal at the end of the day, that just doesn't happen anymore. On that thing of having to wait for the news to find out what happened during the day
and finding out what item you are.
I mean, my dad always had the news on when he was cooking the dinner, and AM and PM are the background to my life. And I just really loved that they were all gathering around the news. And over in Wales, Bryn and everyone's there with their tray on their lap, which was what my grandfather used to do. After my nana died, he would always eat by himself in there with the tray. It's not that it's dated, it's just that it's quite nostalgic. And I'm not sure if you were young that you would that you would lose yourself in that. My kids wouldn't get it at all.
No, I guess they wouldn't.
So
you just call it up.
Yeah.
On the YouTube, as Ben calls it.
On the YouTube, but none of it really felt too cringy for me. What about in terms of character development?
Two lovely moments that I thought when Pam and Stacey are so excited about who they've got to ring to tell them that Mick's on the telly, and they both just squeal and jump in the air together. I thought, well, that's a nice little moment of those two characters.
Yeah.
That Pam lives with two men and she's now got this daughter figure to woman with, which is really nice. They're introducing this other side of Bryn with his obsession with Brokeback Mountain, which... Confession time, I've never seen that movie. So I know about it. Nessa's bowling was obviously really iconic. And the big thing was Stacey's homesickness.
I thought, in character terms, it was really interesting seeing Gavin. And I know kind of previously we've talked about how he's like he's really steady.
Good egg.
But I think it's really interesting around this time that he's pretty unsympathetic and lacking in empathy.
Not a good egg. Yeah, sorry.
No, he kind of pays lip service to her feelings, but he's so convinced that living at home, that saving money is the right thing to do. He really doesn't examine how that is for Stacey. And I think that's really interesting.
Totally agree. And it's one of the few times that Gavin's not the good egg. He is dismissive of her feelings and maybe sort of playing in, because I think that Mick does it with Pam a bit too, as, your mother's having one of her moments. And like if you're the emotional one in the family, your feelings are still valid.
What were kind of the heart moments for you?
Poor little Stacey's lost face. She just is getting so sad and losing all her joy. So, there were those moments, Bryn and Gwen and Nessa having that moment of being so excited for Mick and Pam and Stacey. But deep down, it's just Stacey being sadder and sadder. And, that's it doesn't get resolved in one episode either. You get to watch it and feel it with her. She's really good, Joanna Page.
Yeah, I agree. And I really did love Bryn's gleeful anticipation of seeing Mick on the news, and how devastated he was when his moment on the news was just that one sentence, he'll be disappointed. It was really nice. And
I did also enjoy the little kitchen talk between the men and the oven gloves.
Gloves.
For me, that was one of the sort of the jokes of the week, just that scene was ridiculous and unnecessary and so good.
I mean, it was sort of nice because it puts Mick out in the kitchen, which is where he likes to be in that blokey way with the meat and all of that kind of stuff. But I agree, I like that scene as well. It kind of had no purpose except to be funny, which I quite like.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So on which note, what was your favourite joke or your favourite scene? Or
there's a big joke that runs through this episode, which is that girls masturbate as well. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
That when Stacey just calmly admits to have had it, now I can't remember what show it is. I hope that's not the quiz question from you, that she'd had 3 while watching a particular show, and the men not being able to deal with it. Like, it's all right if we do it. And I thought that was a really good running gag, and it just kept dropping into the episode, and I loved it. There's a moment when Pam and Dawn are trying to have a heart-to-heart about how hard it is for Pam to have the daughter-in-law, and everyone thinks the daughter's the princess, and then they have to change it because Stacey walks in and says, "What are you talking about?" So they talk about the three-way, and Stacey just casually says, "Oh, is Nick one of the candidates?" It just lol. Oh, and also the whole pornographic sex scene, which was just very funny.
Yeah.
It was almost like, oh, I can't watch. And then at the moment when they went, "Oh, shall we?" And then off they go. I laughed and laughed.
Yeah.
And then the other one, I'd love to see an outtake of it, is Ness talking while she's shining her bowling ball. And so her voice is going all stupid. She's going, like that. And she just commits so hard to that scene. They were my favourites. What about you?
They were pretty much mine, also in the same order. I loved it when they were yelling up and down. So Gavin and Stacey have come to see this flat and they can see Smithy and Dino on the floor above and just coincidentally, and then they're just shouting out about cracking it out. Loved it. So good, especially because she just talks about it as if they wouldn't be surprised at all to hear her talking about it.
Yeah.
And they're just...
Yeah, because of course girls do.
So, yes, I did. I really enjoyed that a lot. I think that was actually one of the standout moments for me of the whole series, in fact. And I did enjoy the bowling. Although I thought there's bowling scene was kind of easy to write. You just take Nessa and make her brilliant at bowling and fully committed to bowling. There kind of wasn't anything, like it was hilarious, but it wasn't surprisingly hilarious, whereas the cracking it out thing really made me laugh out loud at the sheer surprise of it.
I genuinely think the bowling went in so that Ruth could do the bowling polishing gag. Yeah. I genuinely think that.
Well, why not? If you can pull that off so well, why wouldn't you? Yeah.
She's seen somebody do it before and thought, we have to have that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, so we're at that point of the show where we ask each other a question. And now I had two questions. And the first one, the first one, obviously, I can't ask because that's about the flat. And we've already established that's going to trigger you. And then the second one was, how many times did Stacey crack one out? And you've already answered that as well. So I've got nothing.
Ask me the real estate one. I won't be triggered. You said what's my problem with it? It is that.
Yeah, well, where was the shower?
Oh, it was fucking under the sink.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to stand over the drainage.
Yeah,
hole.
yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Oh, there's so many I could ask you. Do you know what was written on the back of Nessa's bowling shirt?
Oh, I wrote that down and I haven't got those notes with me because I thought, oh, no, I can't remember it, even though I wrote it down. I can't remember.
It's her surname, Jenkins.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Now, I couldn't remember if it was that or her town.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that whole bowling scene because I grew up in a country town and when the bowling alley opened, it was this place where we could hang out. So I'm actually quite good at 10-pin bowling. So, and also when I lived in Abu Dhabi, we did lots of 10-pin bowling because it was air conditioned. Yeah. So I did really enjoy that because it's like the daggiest. It really is, but it's sort of fun as well.
Yeah, we used to do it a bit when I lived in Canberra as well. And did you, when Nessa let the first strike go, did you look at it going down thinking that's not going to hit the middle?
Well, I did think that was cut. That ball.
That's what I thought. I thought, no, that wasn't going straight for the centre, unless you had a lot of spin on it.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. And I did take notice of that. So by the end of this episode, we're halfway through the second season, which kind of makes us halfway through the whole thing. So I thought it might be good to check in now and see how we're thinking about our original questions of what do you think? Do you still love it? Are you enjoying it as much as you did or as much as you thought you would by rewatching it?
Absolutely. I like the way they're sitting in the sad moments, and I think that's really great for a comedy. There is a little bit of slapstick and stuff in it, but it's not the ha, ha, ha. It's small. It's not overdone. I think it's brilliantly crafted. I think it's so well written. I think that a lot of my favourite stuff is probably coming from Ruth Jones rather than James Corden. But I think it's a combination. It was just that thing that she's giving space to, that, women can masturbate, that feeling of loss when you're in a displaced, and maybe I'm being unfair, but I just think that she was a different and bright voice, television humour, and I think it's great. It's great.
I enjoyed rewatching the first season, but rewatching this season, I am super enjoying.
It is a step above, I reckon.
Yeah. I agree.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got lots to look forward to in the next episode, knowing that we'll have the aftermath from Smithy and Nessa sleeping together again, and also...
I feel like you didn't give my joke about pornographic content.
Oh, sorry. I did mean to. No, sorry.
Appreciation.
No, and that's a fair criticism because I did actually mentally note that and go, oh, yes, I need to call back to that. I'm sorry.
I was very proud of that.
You should have been. And it did make me think, oh, did they mention that in the show? And then I thought, no, they didn't. She's just made that up. Yeah. So I apologise. And good on you for backing yourself there.
Yeah.
All right. We will be back in the next episode. So I'll see you there, Kazla.
Thanks, Trace.
See you.